Hello current and future subscribers. Before we get into it, please just tap that subscribe button. Be doing me a huge favour. Right, so before we get into the build video, if you do want to get into the build video, fast forward about 2-3 minutes or something. This is just a bit of a showcase of the build itself. As you can see here, taking practically no damage from any dots, and this is a function of what I explain in the build later on. The combination of Iron Warrior, Rejuvenation Potion, massive incoming healing, and just the general way the build is set up. Now you may think I'm jumping up here very slow, but you know this I did this intentionally to get this footage, okay? Now, here we have an example of some grade A ball breaking. As you know, right side tank's job is to hold on to those balls, but what if we could also kill them? I don't know if you saw that, but that must have been a boot proc, because I don't think I can usually do that like that. But this is with this build, which when you go and look at it, the stats are pretty jacked, to be perfectly honest. But we can take a hit like that like a champ whilst we tank 2 balls, and then take a further tank buster with no stamina. And I think a final example of just not really taking any damage from dots, or
bad way.
restoring our health enough that the dot becomes less of an issue.
Shades of AoE Warlock.
Notice the massively decreased damage taken as soon as that Iron Warrior's popped in. And another example of extreme ball handling. Oh, okay, I just wanted to include this one quickly. This is actually on a wipe when there was no one around, so using this build, no shields, no nothing, no support, and easily survived. In fact, I've even put it in twice. Okay, here's the build. Enjoy. Hello, Neverwinter. So, this is my, as hyped, Apocalyptic ball breaker build for Master Shackles of Divinity. Now it's going to look pretty crazy to a lot of people, but I'll try and include some gameplay clips just to show how effective it is. Okay, the stats are absolutely jacked from a what we would usually consider to be a correct tank build. So I don't know if I assume if you've been watching some of my videos you're going to be aware of this, but awareness is pretty much almost completely useless in Master Shackles of Divinity. The point being, well, the reason why, and I'm sure I've covered this before, but the awareness stat directly counters the combat advantage stat. That is its only function. There is no damage mitigation from awareness beyond the combat advantage damage that it mitigates. So, if we are in a dungeon where we never receive combat advantage damage, awareness becomes totally useless. The reason why in previous dungeons and previous trials awareness has been so incredibly important is because the boss had permanent combat advantage damage on everyone. So awareness and combat advantage have a one-to-one counter relationship. It's the same with critical severity versus critical avoidance. But since you've got the crit strike chance in there on that one, crit avoidance is only technically 50% effective because not every strike you receive will be a critical hit. And a few of our stats are paired up like this. Obviously accuracy to deflect severity as well, but due to the nature of deflect and deflect severity and the fact that the bosses have a very fixed accuracy, basically the entire accuracy deflect severity thing is completely messed up and they need to do something about it. Interestingly enough, power versus defense is not a one-to-one negation relationship. So the reason why defense has such outrageous diminishing returns is because defense isn't a stat in itself so much as it is a basically the defense stat is a damage resistance stat. For every point of defense, if it's still as it was, every point of defense is something like 0.47% damage resistance. This is why the Jagged Dancing Blade was so broken for so long, because it says it lowers an enemy's defense, but because defense isn't an actual concrete stat like the awareness is or the crit avoid is, it didn't have anything to act upon. But anyway, that's enough of that's enough of the little educational section, or enough of that particular educational section. So the point being, awareness is virtually useless in here, and critical avoidance isn't particularly that useful either. So what do we do if we don't really need 4 of our main stats? Oh, and incidentally, because of the diminishing returns on defense becomes, well, there's not much, I've said this before, there's not much point having more than 90% defense, because the diminishing returns get so harsh, it's just pointless, basically. What you really want to be stacking is negative incoming damage. That's where you're going to be getting the good returns on stuff. But anyway, ball breaker build. The point and the function of the ball breaker build is to, firstly, go for a highest sort of level of debuff / support that you can implement. So for this one, we're running the Apocalypse set, and we are opting not to run the Grace with the Apocalypse set because we're assuming that someone's going to be running the Vistani with the Grace, which incidentally I have another build specifically for that, but we can address that at a different time. So the function of this is stack incoming healing whilst debuffing, while supporting the group by throwing out AP balls, and also dishing out enough damage to actively kill balls by yourself as a tank, and also kill the mobs downstairs by yourself as a tank. Hopefully I'll be able to get some nice clips spliced in here somewhere. Right, so we start off with a Crown of Unyielding Will. This has a big effect on the amount of shields you receive. And if you're doing my usual trick with the Rejuve potion, then this affects that as well. Incidentally, before I managed to get hold of these Celestial Boots, I was running these. If you put these on with that hat and you follow my advice for how to survive downstairs, you will never die to that dot damage. Crown of Unyielding Will drops from the master version of the trial. It's very good stats. Apocalypse Choker. So incidentally, this will obviously also work with a Marilith set. Oh, which I don't actually have on my tank. So, okay, the fact it works with the Apocalypse set means that it will work with the Marilith as well, basically. So, interesting thing about this particular ring, the amount of damage it throws out and you take is directly tied to the amount of HP you have at any given time. Let's see if I can prove that. As you see, 5% increase in HP, 5% increase in damage. So when your Dragon Hunt boots kick in, or when your Celestial boots kick in, the amount of damage this does ticks up, basically. It may or may not, because some shields are considered just more HP, so I don't know if that like turbocharges it. But either way, it's very good for just dishing out not a huge amount of damage, but enough damage to, you know, kill a ball, for example, if you keep it on you for long enough. And the Claw of Covetous Flames as well. Nice chunky bit of damage, and this has the added effect of being a really good source of crit avoidance, which is not all that easy to come by, to be perfectly honest, in high quantities. Oh, and the crit strike on this ring is also very important for what we're trying to do with the Apocalypse set, which is keep it up constantly. Now, some of you may not be aware of this chess piece, but this chess piece is how it was essential to how we completed MGR in the early days. If you've got two tanks running this, and the Pally can also run it, you can... I'll try and get a clip of this as well, but I've gone into Phalanx, this is procced, I've ended up picking up my own balls that pop, and I've had my daily back before the end of the Phalanx. That's how insane this can be. And the ability, if you can make sure that your DPS always have a daily when they need it as well, it's just a huge benefit. Our main reason for this in MGR was so that the healers could get their dailies back in time to mitigate, which is also an important factor in this dungeon. Okay. I've had quite a few people wondering why the hell I'm running these, and my answer is because I can. Okay. There is no other set of arms in this vast collection of arms that I would need to wear over these ones that I'm wearing here. I think the only thing you could possibly make a argument for... I can't even see them now. Okay, yeah. You could potentially make an argument for these ones, but I really don't think... Well, no, basically no. Don't bother. The 2% awareness debuff I don't think is worth it. And more than that, 4% combat damage, 4% increased combat advantage, 8% increased accuracy. You know, you can take down a ball with that. Obviously, you'll start off with the 8% accuracy and it will reduce because you'll technically be in combat with multiple enemies, but that's why that. And also, item level, right? Item level equals HP these days. Second part of the Apocalypse set. Void Touch weapons. These are literally the best single target. I think they are literally just the best single target weapons in the game, yeah. Because it's base damage, right? And it's minus incoming damage. These things act before... It's all to do with the calculation, right? So there is no diminishing returns on negative incoming damage because it happens before anything else gets added in. Well, that might not be strictly true. But the point is, it's not going into the same bucket as like a damage resistant bucket or a damage increase bucket. There is 5 to 11% less damage coming at you that all of your stats then act upon. And the same with the base damage boost, right? You get 6% initial increase in what you can put out, and then it gets affected by all your other stuff. So there are no diminishing returns on that, or at least not to the same degree. You know about the Mythalar. It's definitely a tank weapon. Don't care what anyone says. Tank artifact. So the two main tank artifacts are Heart Volcano and Mythalar these days. If you have one of those two, you'll usually be able to get away with running 3 stamina regen arties in a debuff build. So major updates since the last build that I put out. This is actually a campaign store buy. So this just works when you take damage. Previously, what were we running? That one? No. That one. Right. So like I said in my original Full Metal Fighter build, we don't deflect that much in here. So this stop doesn't really do anything. We don't need critical avoidance, or at least not to any particularly high level that we'd need to run this. Yeah. Our biggest danger, really, is dying downstairs because of the dot. And to that end, this thing will trigger just on damage being taken. So, wear this shit. And, okay, so this is what else. This build can, with a very slight bit of luck, get its daily back for every single mitigation. Every single mitigation. That includes phase 5, okay? I have been able to mitigate the first hypo, have a few lucky procs, like the chest piece coming in, this procking in, bloodlust procking in, and I've had my daily back in time to mitigate the second hypo as well. It is an outrageous, outrageous build. Okay, I probably need to justify this. For many years, I have said I don't like this bonus. And I don't like this bonus, okay? The reason why I don't like this bonus is because I don't like my health wildly fluctuating. I like to know if I'm likely or not to survive a big hit. But again, due to the nature of this dungeon, I don't particularly see any downside in running these. That being said, I think these boots, these incoming healing boots, might actually be better for this particular dungeon due to the incoming healing. An extra 16, nearly 17% incoming healing once the bonus for this procs in. So if you're downstairs, and the amount of times I've gone down to like 30% health and then just gone back to a full bar as I'm jumping up due to these boots and the combination with the redo potion and all the other stuff, but yeah. I would almost say that these mythic ones are better than the celestial ones, but anyway. So ability wise, we're doing strength and con. Why are we doing that? Strength, stamina regeneration. Con, HP, AP gain. And I've said it before, but you don't need the recharge speed you would get from charisma, and all you're going to be getting from the forte, what was it? An extra 6 points. 3% forte, is it? 1.5 defense. Useless, basically, is what I'm saying. Right, so we're stacking critical strike. 4-2 proc or Apocalypse set. It only procs on a critical hit. And it only lasts for 5 seconds. So we need to be critting pretty much constantly, especially if you've only got a single tank running it. The rest are just to balance out stats, basically. Obviously, perfect balance is incredibly forgiving, but there's no reason not to put them close if you can, right? Again, we could stack up the defense, but we just don't need to. Bulwark of Brimstone. Resiliency of the Depths. could slot one of these in. But, again, you don't need to. And again, we don't need the crit avoid or the deflect chance. Right, Celestial Flash Freeze. Why do I keep going on about the Flash Freeze? Why is it in all my builds? Why is it always the go-to build, go-to enchantment? Two tanks are in it. Even if you only have a single stack of this up, 6% reduced incoming damage from the boss, up to 18% if it all stacks in. Now, Fortified Nature can stack up to close to 20% defense, awareness, deflect. We don't need any of these stats in this trial, apart from the defense. And we've already got the defense as high as we need it to be. There is no reason to run this one in this trial. Unless you've got some crazy build that is relying on this to put your defense up. I don't know. If you if you do, then please feel free to write in the comments. Let me know. I'd be interested to see. Movement speed. It's the most powerful stat in the game, hands down. Okay. Nothing's changed here really. Cleave is okay, so the thing with Cleave is it's one of our skills that can proc in Vistani, but obviously that's not why we're in it, because we're not running Vistani. It just seems to crit more for some reason than Brazen Slash. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's... No, I mean, these are the same cast time. They both do a threefold attack. I don't know. But for whatever reason, you seem to crit more with Cleave. Don't know. Obviously, Brazen Slash, get the stamina back. Enforced Threat. Again, whilst this boss does not appear to have combat advantage on us, we certainly do have combat advantage on them. So that one-to-one relationship applies to the awareness debuffs as well. So when you reduce the boss's awareness by 10%, you are increasing the efficacy. Well, how does it even... Yeah, I might have to look into that actually, because obviously awareness only goes up to 90, but combat advantage goes up to 120. So an awareness debuff is like effectively, or it used to be like debuffing awareness by X% was the equivalent of increasing combat advantage by X%, but given that we are now in a situation where we're already capable of having 30% over the negating awareness, I wonder, maybe that means we've basically got permanent 30% boost in combat advantage. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that. Sorry, going down a rabbit hole there. Okay, we switched over to Earthshaker because this stuns things. Okay, so And it does a good bit of damage actually as well. I've had this over 2 mil on an initial during an article. I felt quite proud of myself that day. So what we do is, because we get our AP back so fast, when we're downstairs, we stun mobs. Okay? You go up, you go into a mob group, you ear shaker them, you stun them, it gives the DPS chance to come up, it gives you the aggro, the initial aggro. Just gives everyone a chance to position themselves, get themselves sorted. And then we phalanx hypos. If you're feeling a bit sweaty, like I say, I have legitimately got my daily back for every single hypo. Every single hypo. Not saying that it's something that you can always do, but I don't know, experiment with it. Movement speed, again. The thing is, threat isn't even... The threat is basically pointless in this trial as well, right? Apart from pointing Zolkiers in certain directions. Oh, sorry, I missed that. So, the thing about Iron Warrior... Iron Warrior will... Iron Warrior reduces the damage you take from the dots downstairs. If you pop this downstairs, I know it says decrease damage taken by 20%, but it actually seems to halve the dot damage. I don't know if someone, maybe someone on PC can confirm that. But this is part of the whole sequence of basically never dying to the dot damage. Pop your Blazing Ages if you got it, pop your Reju Potion, pop your Iron Warrior. And the reduction in the damage that you take, combined with the Rejuve ticks, combined with the boosted income and healing, which incidentally, deep breathing increases healing received by 4% per stack. You're downstairs, you're taking dot damage, you pop your EG potion, Iron Warrior, you dig in, you deep breathe, you're getting an extra 12% income and healing from that, 12% income and healing from the hat. If you're wearing the other income and healing boots and you go too low, you're looking at nearly 36, God knows how much more extra income and healing, right? You can just fill your entire health bar back up. Yeah, and we're running KV because obviously the interaction between KV and Steel Recovery allows us to get our stamina back incredibly quickly, and we can also occasionally save some brave DPS. I often pop this before I go into Phalanx on the hypos, just to pull a bit more damage away. So, Boon-wise, very important, all 3 of these health potion boons. Every tick of your EG potion has the opportunity to proc all 3 of these. I don't want to get too into it in case they decide to mess up the way that operates, but basically there's better alternatives on a tank to running Hellstones. So I switched over to this a while ago. Bloodlust on a tank, crazy, right? For one thing, it's it's all right for aggro. It's also quite good for action points, right? So rank 3, and you can get an extra 1.5% action point gain for 10 seconds. You combine it with all the other insane AP stacking that we're doing, and that's how you can pop a Phalanx and have a daily back before the end of the Phalanx, basically. I won't go over all of these again. I mean, we've been through them enough times, right? Again, we don't need the focus retaliation because we don't need any of those stats. I think the only other thing I was considering was Death's Bulwark might be nice, but only for the hit points, really. Oh, also here, incoming healing, stamina, and more AP gain. Right, if you've been tanking this for a while and you are fully aware of how not particularly difficult it is, switch over to your movement speed boon. Honourable mention to the group heal boon. I personally don't think it's particularly effective, but if you don't need your movement speed, although I would recommend the movement speed, and you don't need your res sickness, you might as well stick the group heal on just to give them a little bit extra. You might be better with the income and healing bonus here as well, actually, versus the defense. I might test that after this. Okay. Now, as far as I'm aware, reports are in that the Spiteful Hex debuff doesn't actually work. So before the Spiteful Hex came out, I was running the Wrath's Patience. For no particular reason, to be honest. Like I say, we don't really need that defense. I might go I might go for a full crazy build and start stacking in damage companions in here. See what we can actually really do when we really want to go for it. But yeah, Spiteful Hex or the Wrath Modar. Good choices here. So technically, every knockback that you receive is a control effect. Now, I don't know if this triggers just on the fact. I don't know if like just being controlled equals a second of being controlled or not. But this could be a crazy powerful sort of self-heal thing. I'll have to look into that at some point. Right, armor break. That's probably what your team's going to want you to run. We're still running old equipment from Hot No because I'm not spending days farming or millions of AD just to get slightly higher item level companion gear. Run the Etrian at the minute. This was given out in a pack a while ago, like an account wide. The common ones you're going to be asked to run on the tank is going to be Etrian, Rothe, sometimes Bruna, I suppose, maybe a Golden Lion. Possibly a Portobello as well. These are all, well, some of those are like much more rare than other ones, but if you make sure you got like a Rothe at least, then you should be alright. And mounts. I don't think much has changed here since last time. I think what I did do though was I swapped out one Guardian Spirit for an Ally's Resilience. So DPS are squishy as, right? And this Ally's Resilience can make them less squishy. So I would recommend all of the support run ally resilience, and then between the 5 of you, you should be able to give your DPS a permanent 5% increase in defense. If you watch my Warlock video, I kind of went into this a little bit more, but if your DPS are rocking at least 40% defense in here, then they should be fine for the hypo, fine for quite a lot of damage coming in. Now, if anyone knows, please let me know in the comments, but as far as I'm aware, this is still the single only mount, 4-slot mount that can run a Champion's Return. Well, with a favoured slot at least. Anyway, that is the build. Oh, not quite. So, mount powers. Tank-wise, they're going to want you to run the Necrotic Roar, or what's that new one? The new Panther, probably. Maybe an Eline, maybe a Swarm. Oh, that's what I want to show you. Okay. So, this particular mount will absolutely animation lock you at the worst possible time. The way to get around it, well, there's two ways. You can pop the mount, pop Enforced Threat, and then pop your daily, and that will do a nice little sequence where you don't get animation locked. Alternatively, you can animation cancel the way that we would animation cancel anything, which is doing our little R3 shield. No, L3 shield. Wait, which button is that? Yeah, sorry, L. I use a back paddle for this, so I forget which is which. Yeah, you can tap L3 and it will cancel you out of anything. You can use it for Iron Warrior, but you gotta be careful because you will cancel the Iron Warrior itself. But if you just need that extra second, you can do that. So, sequence, mount, Enforce Strat, and then you're no longer animation locked. Same works for, because Volcano is also quite a long cast time. But if you can't, Enforce Strat's on cooldown or something, then you can just pop your shield and it will do exactly the same thing. Only the L3 shield though. Dig In does not animation cancel. Okay, that's it. Ball breaker build. Here's a little preview of the blue bulb. I gotta sort these names out. Okay. If you like the video, please leave a like. If you like a lot of videos, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, as always. I really want to put a Warlock healing build out, so I might do that next. Anyway, again, thank you for watching.